And that's one of the biggest things that people really have to understand. If you're going to look for a new you in a new year, you better start looking now.
Hey, Greg, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks. I appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming on. And as we are closing the year of 2023, one of the big things right now is people are thinking about next year's goals, next year's plans, New Year's resolutions. Going back to what we talked about offline, people think they have a lot of time on their hands, right? And you have a very personal story that I want people to know about and share about, and how you were able to really understand how precious time is, and you shouldn't wait for a specific day to start doing something new or something that you're interested in. I know a lot of people wait till the new year to start implementing specific goals. Most of the time, they end up dropping those New Year's resolutions and going back to where they were before. And then they do the usual thing. And then when December hits again, they start seeing what else they can do or they might get back into that goal that they were planning and then redo it. And then it becomes a cycle. But if you want to change your life, you have to consistently take action. So, Craig, why don't we start off with you telling us a little bit about yourself?
So my name is Craig Sotkovsky. I'm an entrepreneur, 9/11 respondent to the World Trade Center. And eventually what happened was I developed a 9/11 cancer directly linked to 9/11. And I know specifically because they're rare cancers. Mine was like one of 69. I'm here to send a message to people. And it's about waking up. It's about understanding that you don't have time. As we're going towards the new year, it's like the new year, new you, right? That's what everybody talks about. And it's the furthest thing from the truth, because all the intentions are there to change your life at the beginning of the new year. But nothing's changed in November or October or during the summer. It always makes me laugh because people have to understand that they have to change a habit. And I was in a habit of woe's me and why me? And, why am I sick? And what I realized was it was like happening for me. And what I realized again, and I tell people all the time, is cancer was probably one of the best things that ever happened to me, just because I'm able to share my story. I'm through it, so my emotional attachment to it is no longer taking weeks, months, or years as I'm thinking about this stuff. And I believe that we all need to change our emotional attachments to the past circumstances and stories. And that's one of the biggest things that people really have to understand. If you're going to look for a new you in a new year, you better start looking now. Right. So I talk mostly about epigenetics and how the heart and brain coherence that we need in order to change our life is to become like this beacon, is to understand all your dark stories that you have about yourself of why you can't overcome circumstances. I've spent thousands of hours by myself during this journey or this quest, because I'm on a quest right now. I started getting sick in 2012, and it wasn't until 2017 that I was actually diagnosed with cancer. So they eventually took my mid and lower lung out after 3 procedures. And, to this day, I'm still feeling the physical pain of that surgery. It was a 9-hour surgery. And as I'm talking now, starting to realize more and more how we need voices to talk about mental health, because that is probably one of the biggest things that I challenged myself with going through this journey, is my mental health and why, I'm an earner and I can't get out of bed, why I'm in pain all the time, and I can't have a decent relationship with myself, because I feel like self-sabotaging and all the things that go along, with being sick. And I understand now society is sick because we're not showing any kind of vulnerability in telling our stories. And I think, as we're obviously from 2 different cultures, what I've realized was nobody laughs or cries in a different language. So it's like, as we're talking our stories and we're getting our stories out, mentally, how fit are we to tell our story? Because I believe if you're not going through it and you're really not looking at that, taking that Band-Aid off and looking at your story and the emotional attachments that we have, we're not going to get through it. If that makes any sense. Or am I just rambling?
No, that makes sense. So you were a 9/11 responder, but your health didn't really start to get affected till you said 2012, right?
2012, yeah, I had pneumonia and a collapsed lung, and didn't realize, where that came from. It just out of the blue, it just popped up.
So in a way, it's kind of the compound effect where you were a 9/11 responder, you helped with the disaster, but then like health wise, you felt fine. It only started creeping out like over 10 years later. You realize that 9/11 experience had something to do with your current health issues, which is shocking to a lot of people because they think like if something's wrong, they'll know right away, but your body might not give you those signs till much later.
Yeah, and they know specifically, like my problem. I was there for 2 days, and I know guys that were there for months, and nothing has happened to them. And what I found out was, you needed to be there 4 hours of the first 5 days, and I was there for 2 days of the first 5 days. So I kind of like hit the wrong jackpot, right? And I'm, one of tens of thousands that are sick and dying. Nobody's really paying attention to the story anymore. It's like as soon as 9/11 comes around, the politicians are out waving the flag, petting the kids. And then as soon as 9/12, that's it, it's done. And, I just want to be here to have people understand that if we're all going through something right now, doesn't matter who it is, doesn't matter what part of the earth, we're all going through something. But it's when you have that I can't tell my story because so and so might look at me different, right? We compare ourselves to other people. And what I've realized in this entrepreneur game, and it's funny because I talk to a lot of cancer patients and I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs, and I'd rather deal with the cancer patients because entrepreneurs too much. It's always it always gets me how we take what we go through every day granted. We're always like looking for something different, but not having the ability to change for ourselves because we're stopping whatever we're doing because of our emotions or our past experiences in life. And I just want people to, regardless of whatever culture or where you're from, most parents throw their failures on their children, right? And want them to go to college or want them to be on a ball team because they didn't follow through. So they're giving their failures to their children and hoping that that children's successes. It's a sick world that we're living in, brother.
When you were done the 9/11 duties, you were still living the life the way you were living, right? Because you didn't really have any health scares till 2012. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I
Yeah.
had knee operations. I had a
All
bunch
right.
of knee operations. That was it.
All right. So in terms of the mindset, how much has your mindset shift in terms of the time or any other beliefs that you had changed compared to like pre 9/11 to your diagnosis in 2012?
I was always the guy, right? I was always the kid with the lemonade stand and like the hustler mentality, like all of that stuff. And I still have that. What I put value on now is going through my mental issues because we all have mental issues. We're all crazy at some point, right? And I think we tend to feed fear time. And I think that's what the world is going through right now. Like someday, one day, and it's like, nah, man, today's that day that you've been waiting for. And, the reason why I keep saying this over and over again is because I don't want people to lose out on their life because they're in fear of what somebody's going to say, or they're in fear that they might make mistakes. I make mistakes every day, but it means I'm still here. I'm still believing in myself. I'm still, taking that accountability. And I think that's what people really need to understand is you have to be accountable for your life. If you don't have any kind of like attachment to the outcome of whatever it is that you're doing, you're going to fail. It's just it. I'm not looking to, blow smoke up people's butts. If you don't get this right, it's called the temple for a reason. It's the only real estate that we can own. The only thing that we can control is our response to all the circumstances and experiences that our life throws at us, because life is going to come for everybody, whether they want to participate or not. So be mentally prepared. And that's my message in a nutshell. Be mentally prepared for whatever's coming, because it's coming.
Well, when you got the cancer diagnosis in 2012, what habits, like which habits did you change? What did you do career-wise? Did you switch careers? Did you want to spend more time with your family? What was some of the things that you changed in terms of your lifestyle from that diagnosis?
I had to change. So I got diagnosed in 2017.
Oh,
It was 5 years where I would be sick.
yeah.
I would get pneumonia and I would get pleurisy, which is water around the lungs. It's extremely painful.
Mm.
And I kept getting this diagnosis of, you have COPD, or, nobody really understood why I was going through this stuff. And then one time there was an eclipse, and I went up to Helen, Georgia to watch this eclipse. And I'm an avid hiker. So I'm hiking all the time, walking all the time. And I couldn't walk up the hill. It felt like my chest was ready to explode. And we had gone to the doctor then, the ER afterwards. And that's where he told me, in front of my 11-year-old daughter at the time, he's like, you got a malignant tumor in your lung. And, just getting that kind of diagnosis stuns you. But when somebody says that in front of your 11-year-old child, that's not stupid. She got a little freaked out and was like, what's this? My dad's going to die. And it was like, it was hard to explain to a kid that's smart and could look up, anything that they want on the internet. My whole thing in this world is whatever it is that you want to do it now.
Oh, so what are you doing now compared to before?
So I'm speaking all over the world on Zoom calls. It's crazy. Since the pandemic, the world has opened up online.
Yeah.
So I get to speak all over the world about my story and just encourage people to motivate and inspire, but also have them execute, because we can plan out all we want. Everybody's like, oh, make the plan. I have stuff all on my walls, all over my house. And it's like, okay, there's stuff that I've been doing for years that I haven't formalized yet. That's great to plan, but it's like, eventually you're going to have to show your hand. And, that's what I want people to do. Show your hand, get embarrassed, be humiliated, have some zest in this world. And I know there's a lot of people like, nah, I can't be embarrassed. I can't be humiliated. I think that's when people become very successful, when they have thick skin. When you go through these things and you're on the other end of it going, holy crap, what was that all about? I'm still shaking my head that I'm doing this, that I talk all over the place. Because I used to think, my ego used to say I'd be famous for business stuff. And that's the furthest thing from the truth. I'm the 9/11 cancer guy. I'm sitting here telling stories about how I've overcome things. And I want people to overcome whatever they're going through, because there's somebody listening right now that's going through some immense pain, and aggravation and frustration. And it's like, just keep going, man. Just keep going through it. You got to take the hits. Unfortunately, you have to take the hits. And you got to hit back. You have to learn how to hit back.
So what made you decide to start a career, so to speak, in public speaking? What made you decide to want to tell your story to a wider audience?
I used to speak back in the day at real estate conventions, right? And, I had the background in publicity summits, right? And when I got sick, man, that was the story. And I had a hard time telling a 9/11 story because it always brought up these mixed emotions. And I realized that, if you're working on something that's triggering you, you got to keep working on those triggers, because eventually you got to be able to tell the story with a smile, not that things are funny. Well, I should back up, because if there is a God, he's got a funny sense of humor, right? We go through all of these things and it's like, God, why? It's like, why not? You're human. You're just like everybody else. Good things happen to bad people and bad things happen to good people. So enjoy the whole ride. I have to be thankful for everything. I have to be thankful and grateful just for the opportunity to be able to talk to people.
Yeah, absolutely. And how do you start like getting these speaking gigs booked?
So everybody's finding me online. I keep doing podcasts and stuff, and people are like, "Hey, can you speak here? Can you speak there?" And one of the funniest things that I find about this, right? And I tell people this all the time is that, I think it's the coolest thing in the world that we could speak everywhere now, right? A few months ago, I was talking to a bunch of guys in India, teaching them street English, into a bunch of guys in India. And it's like the world is so small. So just be nice because we all want the same stuff. We all want our kids to do better than we did, right? If not, you're egotistical. We're here to learn, grow, move on. And my message might not resonate with some people, but with most people it does because you have to stand back up again. You got to give yourself power in this world.
Wait, what's street English? I'm not sure what that means.
So it's not. I don't have a formal education,
Huh.
right? So it's just it was me and a bunch of guys, and they're with their broken English and stuff. They're trying to learn phrases. Like what are the phrases that you have to learn in whatever language that you're speaking, right? Tonality wise, it's like what verbiage is coming from you. Most people I talk to that speak, several languages, like, oh, my English isn't that good. No, but you speak 4 other languages. That's amazing. My English isn't that good, right? And I'm an English speaker.
Got it. All right. And going back to what you said before about, yeah, you can have the best plan in the world, but if you're not taking action, it's not going to work, right? So again, we're heading to the end of the year. People have all these plans to start off the new year but most of them don't take action. So what is your advice and suggestions to get people to implement on those plans that they're currently creating right now?
Again, what we were talking about before, you're going to embarrass yourself. You're going to humiliate yourself. In being an entrepreneur, it's about how much stuff can you actually take, right? What I teach people is how to take it and actually hold it, look at it, examine it, then pounce. Because that's what, we're always lost somewhere. We're always looking for this external validation. And it's like, no, everything that you're looking for is right here. You don't have to go anywhere. I got a buddy of mine. He talks all over the world, man. He's flying here and he's flying there and he's flying, and he's always tired. He's always beat up. And it's like, how do you become so resilient in what you do, right? And how can you help people? And it's like, because you have to become resilient for yourself. I'm telling stories about like, I should have been dead a bunch of times. Okay, that's great. But I'm alive now. So I'm going to tell my story, craft my story in the hopes, and I have faith in that people will take it and run with it because everybody has a story inside them. Everybody's got to get it out. It's just with that emotional attachment, you want to disconnect from the story so you could freely tell it.
Absolutely. And in terms of going back to the time thing, right? If someone's in, like, say, their early mid-20s, they think they have all the time in the world, so they're going to take things slow. But as you get older, time is like moving at a more rapid pace. So my question to you is like, how can people really harness valuable about time is and that you can't get it back once it's passed?
Fail fast. You have to. Whatever it is that you're thinking about, just implement it. Fail, learn. That's the only way you're going to learn is by doing, right? Or becoming. What I tell people is you have to become that person now. You want to be a multimillionaire? You have to think like a multimillionaire now, before the event actually happens. So you have to harness your internal zest for life to be bolder than you've ever been before. If you want to have big dreams and big goals, just look in the mirror. That's your only competition. People are always looking for the external, right? It's always like, oh, well, what is cousin Joey going to say? Or what is auntie going to talk about? Or my mom's going to say. Who cares? Who cares? Most people aren't even thinking about you anyway. They got their own problems.
That's a good point, right? Like everybody's so wrapped up about what people think of them, but at the end of the day, you'd be shocked at how like much they're thinking about themselves more than you, right? Like you might think like your hair doesn't look that good. I don't think anybody's really paying that much attention to your hair because they have a lot of problems on their side, and they're probably thinking about themselves more than you.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and especially like younger. Like I don't I don't coach 20-year-olds anymore, right? And the reason why is because at 20 years old and to be an entrepreneur, there's so many other things that you haven't learned yet. So what I was doing is I was getting frustrated with the people that I was mentoring because they were young. And I didn't understand how to like take what I'm teaching and show a 20-year-old. Well, 20-year-old hasn't had the kid, for the most part, hasn't had the kid yet, hasn't raised the kid, hasn't seen life through, their spouse's eyes and the failures that they've done with marriages and jobs and businesses and all of that until you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s. When you're 20, everybody's like, I remember myself. I just wanted to keep going. Just keep going. Whatever the stupid idea was, I was going to implement it. And I did. Stories for days, and it was always about like, now it's like, oh, he's so wise. Well, yeah, I used to be young and stupid like everybody else.
Yeah, like when you work in like a corporate environment, when you're one of the older people and you see all these new people coming in, like all these like Gen Zs, and they're talking about stuff that they have issues with, like from when you had it like 5-10 years ago, it looks at a different lens because you've been in that experience, and no matter how much wisdom you can give them, they want to think that they can do it better, right? So I definitely understand about like it's a bit tough to like mentor younger people that want to experience some things themselves, even though you're trying to make them avoid the same mistakes.
Well, the thing about younger people too is they haven't learned what they're. So the way we used to say it was, you haven't learned what you're not even supposed to know yet, right? And when I've mentored the young kids, they make a lot of money and they think the money is going to change their life forever, right? Into a positive way, and they realize that, you know what? Okay, now I have the money, but who's around with me for the money or for who I am? And that's one of the hardest things. That's a hard thing to swallow, especially if you're building something without other people and they jump on board when you're already successful. It's like, watch, life's going to come for you, whether you want to participate or not, man. Murphy's Law is real.
Yeah, exactly. And when you're young, you value more of the money than the time because you don't have the money. But then when you get older, it flips. Now you want you want more time than the money. But again, if you want to get ahead in the game, if you're young, you have to value your time more than money, even though you have way more than someone who's a bit older.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm on the other side of the downside more I am than the upside.
Yeah, like for me, I'm like dead middle right now. So like eventually I will, like in the next few years, I will be on the wrong side of the aging process. So again, like anybody listening right now, whether young or old, like you got to value your time as much as possible because you're not gonna get it back.
And energy is really important. Understanding energy, understanding your frequency, vibration, like all of this stuff is like, oh, this old hippie dude, he's going to start talking about, nah, this is the truest thing in the world. Nikola Tesla was like, if you want to understand the universe and all of this outside Wi-Fi, I think energy, frequency, and vibration. And once you're able to tap into all of this and understand it, it's going to take a long time to understand like why you have synchronicities and things like that. And it's like, I'm in a phase of my life now where I have no idea what's coming up next. And you know what? I'm pretty cool with that.
So speaking of which, a lot of people don't want to like try new things or jump ship because they're worried about like a whole bunch of things that are out of control. Like what do people think of them? What doesn't work? But you're looking at it as a glass half full, where I don't know what's coming, but I'm excited for it. How do people like start having more of that abundance mindset?
Start doing that. That's it. I mean, start doing whatever it is your mom and dad are telling you not to do, right? Do it. You're going to do it anyway. They're going to talk about you anyway. So just do it anyway. And if something actually like catastrophic, so what? If you didn't die, keep going. Eventually, look, whether you're rich or poor right now and you're listening to me, eventually we're all going to die. That's a guarantee. That's the only guarantee, right? So we can live by actually telling our stories about how we didn't die.
Yeah, like a good point my friend made was people want to race to the finish, which is, for example, let's say you're Gen Z, 22, 23, and you want to get that promotion like next year instead of like waiting maybe the 3 or 4 years that you need at the company before they would actually consider you to get promoted, or you're rushing to get married or rushing to do this. My friend says like when you're rushing to the finish line, you're basically rushing to your death. So indirectly, you're saying you want to die faster by accomplishing these milestones a lot quicker. Which the last milestone that everybody has is death. So you want to hit death quicker. When you think about it, when it comes to like trying to rush through certain milestones instead of like enjoying the process and enjoying the journey.
That's exactly it. Like I hated the process,
Yeah.
right? It was always like, oh man, this is gonna suck. I got to do this. I have to do this. I have to do that in order to have this outcome. And it wasn't until I really understood the cancer process that's what really did it for me. It was kind of like, oh, they told me I was going to be treated 3 times for cancer. They were only right once, but I have the scars for all 3 times. And what I would have to do is, as they would diagnose with something that's crazy, right? Your mind is just it just wants to go and hide. It's like cancer. Oh, you got to be kidding me! It's like a death sentence. And now I don't care what anybody says. Nothing's going to change my physiology. Nothing's going to change the way I think long term, right? I mean, I'm going to react. If somebody comes in and is like, oh, you have this devastating thing. Oh, man, why again? And it's like, all right, I'm still going to go home with a smile on my face. I'm still going to be joyful. And I think that is when you develop this character off of your failed experiences. By being beat up, by having life just literally beat the daylights.
Yeah, like the Rocky Balboa movies, right? Like one of the things that Sylvester Stallone says is like it's not how hard you get hit, it's how hard you get hit and how you keep moving forward, right? I forgot the exact line, but it's again, like you said, right? That you're gonna get constantly beat up, but it's the ones who stick it out and keep going that win, not the ones who give up after.
Yeah, what are you giving up for? You're giving up your life. There's so many people that I run into that they're like, well, when I get married, I'm going to be happy. Right? I always ask people like, what is your end goal? And they're like, well, when I get married, I'm going to be happy. All right. When I get rich, I'm going to be happy. When my kid's born, I'm going to be happy. I'm like, but the theme is happy. So why not be happy ahead of the event? And if you could do that, man, you got life beat. You really do, because now you're putting your energies towards these small incremental wins. And I think people put all of their energy into these big wins and then get discouraged if they don't have the big win. No, celebrate the small incremental wins. That's going to build up to that overall success that you have for yourself. And success is different for everybody.
Having this is a choice, right? It doesn't happen when an event happens, right? That doesn't make any sense, right? Like in a way you could, like, for example, like if someone close to you dies, right? Like there's a couple of ways to look at it. You can think about all the good memories you had and showcase your gratitude that they lived a happy life, or you can be like really sad. Oh, I wish I did this and did that, right? So there is different perspectives. So again, happiness is emotion, but it's a choice emotion. Usually, it's not happens when an event happens.
But here we're emotional creatures, right? Yeah. Humans are emotional. So why not tap into the emotions that are actually benefiting you instead of that? We're not being chased by saber-toothed tigers anymore, right? But we might have a crappy relationship with our girlfriend or our wife. We might have a crappy relationship with our siblings or our parents. So those triggers are constantly flooding our body with all of these hormones and all of these things that throw us out of loop. Control your emotions and you're ahead of the game, 1,000%.
So speaking of like controlling your emotions and overcoming fear and doing it anyway, so you were a 9/11 responder. Obviously, that incident was the first in U.S. history, or well, yeah, I think it's the first in U.S. history, close to it. So what was your reaction when you had to go down to the site and spend a few days there? Like, what was your reaction? Like, I'm like, there's probably a lot of fear going around. Even if it's not you, it could be like the people around because they don't know what's going on. The country's under attack. So like, how did you overcome all these fears, all these mixed emotions to carry forward and deliver the work that you were assigned to do? I
didn't. I just did it anyway. I mean, to like really understand this, like when I got there, the first time I got there, pardon my French, but I was just like, holy, what is this and why am I here? It's just like, what am I doing here? And I wasn't the only one. It was, I mean, because you're standing on top of the World Trade Center, right? There's blocks and blocks of all of this devastation. And I tell people all the time, I don't know what it's like to be in the military, but I do know what it's like to clean up a bombing campaign or help clean up a bombing campaign. And it still plagues my head to this day, because I don't think anybody has to look at stuff like that or be a part of any of that stuff. But if I could help somebody get out of their head and learn techniques to continue to be out of your head, then it's all for the benefit of who I'm reaching.
How much longer did you continue being a responder before you changed career paths? And
Oh,
how
I
did you
wasn't a
change career?
responder. I was a volunteer.
Oh, you're a volunteer. Okay.
Yeah, I was in construction my whole life, right?
All right.
So I figured like this is the perfect opportunity, right? To go someplace. I'd rather be there than somebody that was never in construction. Like I could run machines. I've been a part of apartment building projects, bridges, docks. So I'm familiar, but I wasn't familiar with what I saw. And I don't think anybody is.
Yeah. So if you were a volunteer, like did you have an option to say no? But do you think it was your American duty to help out, or what was the thought process there?
No, it was just I just wanted to be there. I mean, I'm in construction, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to the World Trade Center because it's gone. I'm like, what is that going to be all about? Like that, my driven thing was I want to be there to help people, because I don't want people that have never been on construction sites or anything catastrophic. Then why not me? You know, why not go there? I can put up with just about anything. I didn't realize like how spoiled I was until I went there. You know, I'm a spoiled American. And, you know, that's it in a nutshell. Just a spoiled American. You know what I'm talking about? I mean, come on, man.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
We can get food 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, right? We complain if our lattes don't have the right sprinkles and stuff like that. I mean, it's ridiculous, the stuff that we have to worry about and what other people in the world worry about.
Like one of the hashtags, your daughter probably knows it. I don't know if you know, it's like first world problems, right? So it's like all the comments that you make, and then they say hashtag first world problems. And like these aren't really like problems at the end of the day. Like especially if you go to like more developing countries, like our problems are the least of their worries.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, I mean, you know, it's so hard. It's so hard because, you know, like people are going to be like, oh, you know, he talked like, and that's like me worrying about what other people are going to say. And eventually it's just like, get out of your head. Get out of your head. I mean, understand what poverty is. You know, I've been through hurricanes and stuff where like I had the Red Cross in my driveway to give me soup. People don't even have driveways. People don't even have soup. So be grateful for everything that you get, everything that you acquire. Just be grateful for it. I was a very cynical person until this whole quest. I'm not cynical anymore. I mean, the world is what it is. It's going to do what it does. And you got to show up. You got to take the hits, and you got to keep moving from this point forward. You know, that's one of the things I always wanted to like get across. If you're hearing me or if you're seeing me, I have to leave you better than what I found you. And that's my message. That's my insane message to the world. You know, life is simple in its own complexity.
To wrap up our conversations today, Craig, what's next for you in terms of like the next few years? I know you're being more intentional with your time. So what are you striving to do in the next few years, and what is some advice that you can share to end our conversation when it comes to ensuring that you're using your time wisely and you are taking at least small steps, no matter how small they are, to reach those goals that you've outlined for yourself?
So I don't think years ahead, because I don't know if I have years ahead, right? So what I do now is I outline my day, and I consistently outline it in a way that I want to see end results, measurable end results in that day, and know where I'm going to all over the world. I want to speak everywhere. I want to be felt more so than heard, right? So I'm on this vulnerable, emotional tangent on how everybody needs to just wake up because we all want the same stuff, man. I don't want something happen to you. No, I want to hang out. We can break bread, right? We learn about each other. And I think more people are starting to wake up now that we are online all over the place, right? I'm getting opportunities now I only dreamed about, man. You know, I only dreamed about stuff like this. Be able to talk all over the world in podcasts and radio shows. And man, I'm blessed. I ain't stressed.
What are some closing comments that you can give to my listeners in terms of like taking action, like right now instead of waiting for the new year?
That's it. Take action. You know, like work on your plan. That's great, you know, but sometimes you have to push it a little bit faster than when you thought. You know, like when you're saying, like, what are you going to be in a few years? I don't know, a legend. I want to be legendary. Some people are like, oh, that's very callous. That's egotistical. It's arrogant. No, only if you see it that way. I want people to know exactly who I am because I'm going out kicking and screaming. So that's it. Go out kicking and screaming, man. Whatever it is, put a smile on your face and just keep going.
Amazing. Again, appreciate the time, Craig. So how can people reach out to you to learn more about what you do and how you can help them?
Go to craigsotkovsky.com. And that's where I'm like all my social links, all the stuff that I can help people with. And on Amazon, Everybody Pays a Vig, One Man's Entrepreneurial Journey. That's my book that's out. And I have another one coming out soon, hopefully.
Sounds good. Again, appreciate the time and enjoy the rest of the weekend and have a great end to the year.
Thanks, man. I appreciate the time and the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. For more content on careers, job search, and self-improvement, make sure to hit that subscribe button.